Welcome back to the channel. Yes, the tournament is over, and everyone, I mean everyone, is thinking, what's the Rugby Illuminati gonna say now?
The Rugby Illuminati?
Rugby Illuminati?
Rugby Illuminati?
That bold that thought the Kiwis were going to win the Rugby Championship.
Yes, the very same bold is back. And don't think I haven't seen your comments, you cheeky little
Cunt.
Yes, the favourites won. South Africa truly do look like the team to beat. Number one in the world, number one in my eyes. We're number one! Number one in many eyes. And they really had a great send-off in their final game up in somewhere I can't pronounce, but it was bouncing over there. Jesus, what a game. Considering Rassie didn't even look to probably win the tournament, as was probably telling with the way he was selecting players and bringing new guys in, you know, it says a lot that a team comfortably won the tournament when that wasn't the aim. The aim was post-World Cup, bring in new players, sub some of the other guys out, you know, have that perfect core of experience and also new guys, and have that swinging around so everyone gets experience. And that was what South Africa did this tournament, and they did it incredibly well, and they brought in a lot of great new players. One of those being Sasha. Came in, yes, he had the injuries at the end that kept him out. Ultimately, he is a super exciting prospect for South Africa. He's going to give them an ability to play a different style of rugby that I think that they've wanted to adapt to in the future, and considering that's what they think the future of rugby is going to be, they can now counter-attack off chaos. They don't just have to brute force their way through to wins anymore. It's just giving them another feather in their cap in terms of how they can beat oppositions. And yeah, I mean, he's not the only player that's come in. Fassi at 15, I think, has been an absolute find. Excellent counter-attacker, such speed as well. And sometimes the problem is that you can find someone with an incredible amount of speed, but the decision-making and positioning and defensive and attacking positioning isn't there. And you have no worries with that with Fassi. He knows when to attack, he knows when to kick, and he's been excellent. I think one of the real finds of the tournament for sure. Hendrickson has been superb today. Coming off the squad bench, looking like a homeless South African man. And people tell me that Grant Williams is good as well. So they've got a good lot of turnover in that back line, a lot of younger guys coming in, taking positions, and kind of building for the forward. I think the challenge for South Africa in the future is in the forward pack. Just take the pack that they've had today. Oxenche, Mbombi, Malba, Etzebeth, some other guy at second row, Steph Tutoy, Visa, Sia Khaleesi. World class. Most above 30. If not, like, way above 30.
I may be an old man. In fact, I'm fairly sure I am. But I'll put you globe trotters in your place with my team of mutant atomic supermen.
I think they're going to have a real challenge in the future finding forwards to come in and replace them. I think at number 8 they're probably set. They've got some great guys coming in, but in the other positions I think they might struggle. And I saw this personally, especially in a couple of their tests against Australia, where they kind of put in a lot of new guys in there, and they did not play with the same intensity that the pack did when the big names were in there. So I think that's South Africa's next challenge, finding some real good young guys to come in that pack and have that same turnover like they've had in the back line, which has been fantastic. So that's, I think, South Africa's biggest challenge. But congratulations to them. Well-deserved winner of the tournament. They played fantastically, and really exciting stuff considering now that they have multiple ways that they can beat you rather than just punching you in the face.
I'm just getting started.
On to second place. Did they come second? I don't even know if they came second. No, they did come second, but barely, against just above Argentina. Yes, New Zealand came second in the tournament with 16 points, 8 points behind South Africa, and only 2 points ahead of Argentina. And as we all know, this was Scott Robertson's introduction into international rugby, and I think there was some learning curve for him and his coaching in particular. Obviously, they had a huge amount of turnover coming from the World Cup with players like Richie Mwanga now leaving the squad and having to kind of find new leaders in there, but there were still some familiar faces such as Scott Barrett and Ari Surveyor. From my personal point of view, I think the talent is there, but it's the basics that need to be worked on. And it's issues that I think that first started arising, especially in those England tests, have really kind of become more of an issue against stronger opponents such as South Africa, and you could probably argue Argentina, as I'll talk about them later on. I mean, even today against Australia, that you would probably think is a worse team than England right now, you could even see that the basics in terms of just clearing out of their own line, clearing out from kickoffs and getting the ball back and territory won back and into the opposition, it was challenging at times. They sometimes got pinned in their own half. It's just basics. The good news is it's all coachable. The good news is it will come with time with chemistry. The good news is it was an embarrassment and there's still plenty of time for Scott Robertson to get this team together. Improvement points for I think New Zealand need to work on. I think in the future, they need to do more what South Africa did and just rely on some of these younger guys coming forward. Tamiti Williams, to me, I think has to start from now on. He's a young guy, he's big. He's great scrummager and he's great in the loose. There's no reason why, especially at this stage of the year, stage of the rugby season going up to the next World Cup when you're furthest away from a World Cup, this is the perfect opportunity to bring in the young guys. And I would have liked to have seen that more. For example, Satiti came in, played today. I think he had an excellent game at 6. Blackadder was the original starting 6 for the tournament, who is not so much of a name to say, but he's 29 years old. Satiti's 22. I don't know why we weren't kind of starting with Satiti if he's this talented and he had a very good game against Australia.
If I have 2 beans, and then I add 2 more beans, what do I have?
An old team.
Other players as well, Cortez Ratimer. I think when he's come on the pitch, he's been really exciting. And I know TJ Perenara is a great player, but don't know. I feel like we need to be building for the future here. And New Zealand, that's probably what they want to be working on, bringing in younger players and trusting them a little bit more. The good news is, at least Will Jordan's back to his peak. In my opinion, it's probably the best winger in the world. He just somehow finds himself in space. I think today he stepped around 3 different dudes with 1 step in the middle of like a back line. It wasn't even like an open play. So good to see that he's back at his full strength. And on to third place, Argentina. What a tournament. And boy, did they put my predictions straight in the toilet. Could see Argentina taking a step back.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Yes, Contepomi has taken this team and kept them right in their stride. That's made it look like their semi-final appearance was not a fluke in the World Cup. I was concerned, as I said in my 3 bold predictions video, I was concerned that a change of coaching staff would, ruin all the progress that they've had. But Contepomi's really kind of taken it, built it from what it was, and kept it going further. This team has a real characteristic and identity about it. Yeah, I think ages are concerned in some positions, but they do have an identity now of playing with emotion and fire. It's a very reactive style. It can win them games, but it can also lose them in equal measure. If the emotion isn't there, sometimes, you can find themselves getting absolutely dominated. I think that was especially true from their first test against New Zealand. They played incredibly well, won the game, and then they felt like there was just so much emotion that was put into that first game that they just didn't have it for that second game, and they got absolutely trounced. So I wouldn't put it as a bad record. I think if I'm Contepomi, I'm taking all the boys out for beers this evening and celebrating what you've done this tournament. You beat every single team, which is really, really impressive, right? Really, really impressive. A great tournament for them. So after a great tournament, how do they progress? How do they win more games? How do they become from just a plucky understarter to a year-on-year competitor in the Rugby Championship, in the World Cup, and so on and so forth? I would like to see them in the future play the opponent in front of them a bit more. Now, this is easier said than done, 100%. You've just built an identity, which a lot of international teams, sometimes they don't even kind of manage to kind of grasp together that. But you've built the identity now. Now you need to be reactive and have game plans specifically for what you see in front of you. I'm talking about having different players for different game time positions and situations. South Africa has this, New Zealand has this. Every super team has this, Ireland has this, France has this. You've got to have different game plans for different oppositions and what they want to do to you. Argentina have that a little bit, but they don't have that on the larger scale in terms of playing the best teams in the world. But if you want to make it from that next step from where you're solidly there every year to a true competitor, you need to be adaptable to what's in front of you. And that's what I want to see from Argentina in the future. I want to see them take that next step in terms of adapting to their surroundings, adapting what's in front of them. Don't just be looking to play your style of rugby. They like to play in the 22 when they see the space all the time. They want to kind of let their heads go a little bit and get super into contact and sometimes give away yellow cards. We saw 2 today. But sometimes you need to change what you're seeing in front of you, and that's probably what the improvement point is for them. But it should in no way inhibit how good they played in this tournament. Really, really great. Great to see. I'd be really interested to see how they do against teams that I would consider as a similar level as themselves. I'm thinking Scotland, England. But for them to then advance to the next stage, they need to then compete against teams like Ireland, France, and South Africa and New Zealand. And they get to do that every year. So it'll be interesting to see what they do next year. And anyway, on to the wooden spoon. Boy, did I get my prediction wrong again.
Yeah, you little pimply little
I mean, it's the same prediction, but it's still just as wrong. Australia finished last, which I didn't think would happen, but I think there's some positive news for Australia in this tournament. I really felt like they had like an upwards trajectory throughout the tournament from when it started against two very tough tests against South Africa. And I honestly do think that they have some real talismans in their team that are real staples that they can kind of build around. I think Tupou, Angus Bell, Fraser McWright, Nick Frost, Jake Gordon, the centres, the wingers, the backline in general. I'm big fans of all of them. You notice I didn't mention a certain position, and that position is 10, and I think it's a bit of an issue with them. I think Noah hasn't exactly been bad, but he hasn't been great either. And I think you can tell that Australia have changed their attacking game plan from playing off of 10 to playing off of 9 over the most recent weeks. And I think that's on purpose. I think you can notice a lot more that attack is dominated by whatever Jake Gordon sees is on, and he's deciding who's kind of first receiver. When at the beginning of the tournament, it was a lot more of Noah making those decisions, and the attack kind of broke down a little bit in my eyes when that was the case. He's a young guy. He's got lots of time to develop. I mean, when we first saw Marcus Smith coming into England, that was the case where 9 was given the opportunity to boss the attack in Ben Youngs, and so maybe we'll see the same as time goes on. Noah will develop into a superstar 10 that will be able to boss this game and attack. But I'm really of the opinion that if this team had Quade Cooper from about 5 to 6 years ago, then it would be a slightly different story. I think they'd be a competitor. I really do. You saw in flashes, especially in today, and especially last week as well, that this team can compete, and they have really, really talented players, both in attack and defence. They've started to develop these little set piece moves that I think has been inputted by Joe Schmidt, seeing like the tap and go. They did a fake to the forwards and then fling it wide, and they do other moves as well where they have a forward off of first receiver and they'll do and they'll change the direction. Also had it with Andrew Kellaway doing a great move off the set piece of the scrum and going from open to blind side and utilising space. So they have the talent, they have the players. It's just getting more time together with this squad, which I know is running out towards the Lions tour, but they just need to keep hammering it home, have a bit of consistency, have consistency with the same players in the squad, have consistency with the same coaching staff, which has been such turmoil for them, I think, ever since Cheika left. And just keep building, keep that trajectory just going slow and steady on the upwards. And I think, we'll be really surprised at how well this team can play come Lions tour if they can just keep on a solid, positive trajectory. Because for me, I think in every single game, they've had at least 10 minutes where they looked really competitive against every team. But the problem is, the minimum is that it's 10 minutes and the maximum you get it out of any of these games is like 50 minutes. And then other than that, they kind of disappear. They look slightly dysfunctional. Things break down both in attack and defence. And it's why they ultimately lost the majority of their games. So consistency. For me, for Australia, it's consistency. Have a bit of consistency and being the best that you can be. See what happens. Either way, I think it was a great competition. I think, yes, the favourites won. So from a results point of view, maybe a little bit disappointing. But I think it is really exciting to see what South Africa are doing with Sasha at 10, Manu Libbok today, where they're playing a much more exciting brand of rugby. But they still have their powerhouses that they have. Obviously, I think there was a lot of interest in terms of a lot of coaching staff changeover other than South Africa. Every single team had a change of coaching staff in some regard or fashion. And it's interesting to see what the directions of the teams. New Zealand, I think, it's difficult to know what the right way to go with when New Zealand is in terms of selection. I think you've got some great players in there, but you've got some older guys and you need to bring in some younger guys. But the well is not as wide as it used to be as in the past. So it'll be interesting to see who they kind of try and bring in that New Zealand fold or pool of players that they have available to them. Argentina, they're going to be looking to take the next step, and they should be. I mean, I think Argentina are really setting themselves a blueprint, and they're uppering the floor of what their capabilities should be and should be expected to be in each game. And a really great tournament for them. And Australia, just keep developing, keep showing steps forward of what you've been doing, and we'll see what happens. Basically, just feel like I've just repeated everything and summarised everything that we've been talking about. But I hope you're enjoying the tournament, wherever you were. Back to domestic rugby. I've already been diving into it a little bit at the moment. Kind of enjoying it a little bit at the moment, to be honest with you. Domestic rugby is great. I love it. I'm going to watch Leicester Bath tomorrow. So we're back in the fold. We're back in the mixer. Let's go.
Go vote for fucking Biden and suck right here.